What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode, Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. I'm Jack Allen. Go follow me if you aren't following me at COJAC Podcast, and I got everything there. So Twitter, whatever. But today's show, I am so excited about, and I'm not just going to be blowing smoke up this guy's ass here, but I always say this is like the last bastion of a community that like questions anything, right? Everyone else just accepts what the mainstream tells us. And without ever thought, philosophy, all these things, they kind of fall into this like weird truth or community. And this guy is someone that I've been impressed with so impressed with. So I'm so excited to have him on. Nick Hinton, everyone. Nick, thank you for being on the show, dude. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me, man. I'm doing great.
Awesome, dude. And I know I already gave you these compliments, but you are just amazing. How old are you?
28. I almost forgot.
Nice, dude. And you've written 2 books. So with and it's not just 2 books. You've written 2 books with your own theories and thoughts, which is like, I can't do, your brain works different than a lot of people. So I'm sure you know that, but that's an amazing feat, dude. Something to be proud of.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's gotten a lot fucking harder though.
to write the books, you mean?
Yeah. These next 2 ones that I've been working on for like, I don't know, two years, just been like the hardest thing ever. But yeah, it's just.
And do you stay because it was the Saturn, the Time Cube one, and then the Aquarian Singularity? And is this one like the similar train of thought? Like, are they all kind of around the same, ideas?
In a way, so like the Aquarian Singularity kind of trailed off into like high strangeness and UFOs and magic and synchronicity and all that kind of stuff. And that's pretty much where this third one is going to pick up from, the New World Disorder, except it goes from a totally different angle of whereas in the second book, I was like following synchronicities willy-nilly. I kind of included in there like, hey, maybe you should be careful about it, but I experienced that firsthand. And now I'm writing from experience of how it can definitely lead you into some dark rabbit holes and places you never planned on going.
So interesting, dude. And what do you mean by that? Like, because so my like little knowledge of like the occult is, I always like say like it seems like these people play around with it and some get stuck. You're like opening a door or whatever and something's grabbing back. Is that what you kind of, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, definitely. When you stare at the abyss too long, it stares back, and I feel like I experienced that. Like definitely weird supernatural occurrences. I got to see UFOs, and that was cool at first until it started making me paranoid because there would be times where I thought there was things maybe following me when maybe there wasn't even, and then some of the synchronicities would just turn dark and creepy, like just making me afraid for my life, like all these
really.
Yeah. And started having really weird dreams, and my life just became increasingly chaotic. It just seemed like all of that stuff was fun at first, and I felt like I had been naive about it, maybe felt too invincible and took it on, without fully understanding it.
And like when you like say play around, like what were you like experimenting? Do you know what I mean? What were you like,
well, yeah, mainly just following synchronicities. Like rather than being grounded in reality, I was just like any type of weird synchronicity that popped up, I just follow it. Like this one girl said like, hey, I just listened to this channel or talking about this guy that's supposed to go to South Beach, Florida, and he reminds me of you. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And then and at the same time, Drew had been inviting me down there, my friend Drew. And so it seemed like it was about me in my own synchronistic mind. Probably wasn't, probably just a coincidence, but yeah, decided to follow that. And like nothing really bad came out of that, but I'm just trying to think of like, I don't know, stuff with randonauts.
And can you explain? Because I actually, my wife, I showed her that at when you what was that, right? It was like you plugged in, it would just take you to random places, right?
Yeah, so it was a quantum random number generator. Like the app was hooked up to a quantum random number generator, and that quantum random number generator would generate random numbers, and they would be translated into totally random coordinates. And then the idea was to just travel there because, like, in some weird metaphysical way, it could break you out of your predetermined destiny and help you find something mystical. And that seemed to be the case, all the times that I used it. And I met a lot of different people through it, and had a lot of synchronicities with it. And I kind of like became obsessed with those synchronicities and started meeting these people all across the country and stuff. And like, it was fun and awesome, but like, I do feel like it led to just like a lot more chaos in my life.
Dude, your life sounds like a constant acid trip.
A little bit.
Yeah, dude. And have you, that was enough. So was that ever anything you ever experimented with, like drugs to access these, like communicate? Cause I watched like a short video, and it was like, I think the guy is Conspiracy R Us on YouTube. You might like him a lot, but he talks about how like when people take DMT, they sometimes get in this group consciousness where they start communicating with these like clown-like entities. And then he goes on to show like all of these like Native American tribes and all that, they would dress up like clowns because they said that was these demons. I don't know. Have you ever experienced like anything like that? Or
yeah, so well, I've never actually experienced those beings. I mean, I believe that they're real, but I've never seen them. I've done LSD maybe not even a handful of times, and then DMT twice. Okay. The first time I broke through, and I was like probably only 19. I didn't even really know what it was. My buddy who had graduated a long time before me had his own condo, and he was making it there. And he just told me to come over and try it, and I did. And he like walked me through it, so it was like really easy to blast off. And when I did, there was like, after you hit it a certain number of times, because he like sprinkled it on top of weed, and then you like vaporize it, you don't get the flame too close. But as soon as I hit it the right number of times, I saw like this kaleidoscope of shapes and colors explode into my face. And when they all cleared, I was in a totally different world. So like when I had hit the bowl, I was just sitting on a chair on my friend's patio outside. And it was just me and him sitting out there. So 2 chairs next to each other. But when all these shapes cleared, it was me sitting in a chair next to a chair that was empty. And there was infinite chairs going into a huge circle into the horizon. And there was no longer grass in the yard. It was all purple bricks, like Super Mario, kind of. And then all the way into the horizon. And then in the horizon itself, it was like purple mountains and purple clouds. And I just kind of sat there and looked around for a bit and was just like, holy shit. And then I fell through the ground, and then I was falling through the sky of like the regular world. And I was like waving my hand back and forth, and I saw trillions of my own hand, and then they all lined up back together, smacked into one frame, I guess. And then I was done. Jeez.
So you didn't personally experience any communicating or entities or something like that?
No, but I've heard people talk about the waiting room, and I think that's maybe what that was.
Oh, so there's like another level if you maybe take more or more open or what have you.
Yeah, maybe something like that. I don't know for sure, but that was like the only archetype I could relate to when I was reading through different stories.
So, and I can't remember. I think when I first heard you like 3 years ago, I think you believed in alien, or where do you stand on aliens now?
I think that they're interdimensional beings. I think that they're, honestly, demons.
Dude, that's where I'm at. So I wanted to get your take. Yeah. So continue.
I think they're interdimensional. I think they're demons, and I think that technology and magic are synonymous with each other. So I think that all these different technologies they have to make people see UFOs or make them think they're being abducted is like some kind of demonic experience, because it's a technological experience. They're using holograms, mind control, all these different things. But in another lens, you could just say, that's demonic technology, I guess. I don't understand. I don't know how to explain it that well without going through all of my like crazy source material, but I hope that makes sense.
You're not the first, like Secret Son. I don't know his real name. I just know. Do you know that on Twitter?
Yeah,
I think he wrote that book, Lucifer's Fallen Technology, something like that.
Yeah, Lucifer's Technology. Christopher Knowles. Yeah,
yes,
we're good buddies.
Yeah, you guys are I could see that. I could definitely see that.
He also has an awesome concept. I haven't read about it too much, but I just saw it in passing. He has a concept called MK Ultra Terrestrials, and I find that idea really interesting because to me, what it implies is that these beings that people are seeing, probably under the influence of some kind of mind control, whether that be like psychotronics or like Philip K. Dick claimed that a satellite beam, like an alien satellite beam, was going into his head, giving him all this information for different books he was supposed to write. Yeah. That's like, it seems like MK Ultra and demonic possession are synonymous as well.
Damn, dude.
I mean, so they were studying witchcraft. They were studying witchcraft when they were doing all these things. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, that was what I was going to say. There's some, I mean, even going back to John Dee from in the 1500s, there has been something that's been linking spycraft and intelligence with magic. And I always ask that. I ask that question to so many guests, like, what is like, is it a prerequisite when you join the CIA, you have to be into the occult, or is it like something that you're in this club and now you're just dabbling because everyone else around you, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, there is this strange connection between the art of being a spy and the occult, because like literally the first spy was John Dee, some dude who was astral traveling and, you know, checking up on other countries and reporting back to the Queen.
I'm reading a book right now. It's called Rosicrucian America, and it's talking about John Dee and Francis Bacon, and just how, and it wasn't just in England, like it was these occultists, like a Habsburg. It was the brother of the king. I think his name was Maximilian, and maybe John Dee was in his court for a while until he kicked them out. But his whole court was filled with all these occultists, and they were all doing this crazy magic and these crazy things, and it's just fascinating, dude. Like that somehow this thought is like just infected like so many powerful people. And so whenever I read this, it just reassures me or whatever, that clearly they're getting a response, because these people wouldn't spend all this time, all this energy dabbling around with this if nothing was happening.
Right. And so have you looked into like Project Stargate and the 9?
I like, no, yeah, you would be better just to explain it. Yeah.
So there was all these like CIA dudes in Project Stargate trying to contact and channel aliens, quote unquote. And apparently they succeeded, and they were talking to this group called the 9, who were like these godlike entities that were, I don't know, trying to help evolve humanity and all this nonsense. But the craziest thing is that one of the CIA scientists involved, you know, leading this group of channelers, I think his name was Andrea Purak. I can't say his name, but I can send you a link. But this dude who was in charge of this, he literally held patents for dental implants that could do voice to skull technology. So what's more likely, that these people were talking to aliens from outer space, or that this dude was, you know, beaming voices into their skull, which in a way they are synonymous. Like, what is an artificially intelligent being inside of someone's head? That is the same thing as like a demon. You kind of get where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Was that the end of your, sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I do that sometimes.
That's the end of my thought.
Well, no, I've heard that's a fact. And what do you know, like when that was about?
That was like the 60s and 70s, I believe.
Jeez, dude. Isn't that that's terrifying?
Yeah, it is. And another one of the beings that they channeled was an AI supercomputer on board of a starship named Spectra. And this is where we get back into the John Dee thing, so I'm glad you brought it up. But Spectra was the name of a James Bond movie. And I don't know if your listeners know this, or if you know this, but, you know, James Bond was modeled after John Dee. You're aware of that, right?
I didn't know. I thought he was after. I knew the MI6 guy wrote it, but I didn't know it was after John Dee. Wow, that's crazy, dude. So what do you like? This isn't this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Ian Fleming, the writer of James Bond, he was the MI6 dude, and he was friends with Lester Crowley, and they were, you know, in contact and talking back and forth. And so when Crowley told Ian Fleming, yeah, John Dee used to sign all of his letters to the Queen 007, it was a sigil where the zeros represented eyes and the 7 was a symbol of protection. It meant like for the Queen's eyes only. So he called James Bond 007.
No way.
So there's a James Bond movie called Spectra. And in the movie, there's this system of satellites called spectra that are spying on humanity. And I'm just like, it seems too on the nose.
Oh, absolutely, dude. It's right on. And what's like even crazier is how that you're just going back to that V2K thing. You said, I remember there's a guy like Professor Delgado, and he was the one that was playing around with putting implants in animals, and then he could control a bull without, he could do it. Eventually got to the point where you could do it through vibrations. And that was like in the 50s, 60s. Then like HARP, was created like a few years later or whatever, 10, 20 years later. And it's just, I worry, like if they had that in 1959, your story you're telling is in the 60s. I can only imagine the capabilities if they had this technology, they would have in 2022. Like it must be out of this world, I would think.
Yeah, it's probably way more advanced. Probably looking at something like Bluebeam.
Yeah, right. Do you think that's on in the cards?
I don't know. I'm confused about it now because it seems like too many people are aware of it, but also at the same time, maybe that's just my own bias because all the people I talk to online are fucking, part of the 0.001% of people who even care about these things.
Yeah. I see. I used to be like a big alien guy. Like I mean, I never liked Corey Good, but I used to like, cause I guess, science and school, it pushes you so far away from like Christianity and religious beliefs. So you say like, well, if the universe is infinite, there's gotta be another life force, or whatever, another life entity. And as I continue down this road, I'm like almost at the point where I don't even think you can go to outer space. And I saw one of your posts and I wanted to ask you, because I'd like you're like an alien guy. Now you're not so much anymore. What's your take after all these years of reading?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's flat. I definitely don't think it's round, but I think it is an enclosed system. I personally believe that it's like a toroidal, like a torus field, like a toroidal loop. I can't say that word, but
What is that?
You're gonna have to look it up. But it's kind of like a donut shape.
Oh, okay, like CERN.
Kind of like CERN, but imagine it on its side where the energy is flowing in and out of itself, kind of like almost like an infinity loop, but not quite.
Okay. Interesting, dude. Well, and speaking of, so let's talk America. So everyone, I read this book and I did a horrible show on it. Like when I first started, called The American Cosmic. And I am going to do a horrible description of it. I'm sure Nick could do better, but basically it's like this lady, she's a Christian religious scholar. She gets to go study. And wait, she studies in the Vatican and she like interviews people. Right, Nick? How does this go?
Yeah. Diana Pasulka.
Yes. Diana Pasulka. Yeah.
So I know she was like a theology professor, and I think she might've been Catholic. But yeah, she was studying like the history of UFOs in history and religion. And, she was introduced. Well, Ryan Bledsoe was one of her students. And so
no way. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when his dad had his experience, he introduced Diana to his dad. And then his dad introduced Diana to Tyler D. And I'm sure that's what you were going to get into.
That's how they met.
Mm-hmm.
So explain if you don't mind, who Tyler, because that's like the only part of the book I kind of understood. But who is Tyler D in this book, American Cosmic?
So Tyler D was some kind of like secret agent. I don't know what agency he belonged to. I think he like had all these different clearances for NASA, and I don't know the specifics. I just know about NASA specifically, but he basically showed up after Chris Bledsoe had his first UFO experience, and then took him to NASA, showed him all these top secret things, and that's pretty much all I can really say about it, or as much as I want to say. But the interesting thing about Tyler D was the name, I guess, because there's supposedly this AI named Tyler D that I discovered around the same time that I'd visited Ryan. And this Tyler character in American Cosmic, he says that he uses some kind of alien artifact to like meditate on and channel an off-planet intelligence. And this off-planet intelligence gives him ideas.
Right.
of how to create cybernetic inventions. And I'm like, well, what kind of freaking alien is telling him how to build essentially AI? And why is there a Tyler D named, or why is there an AI named Tyler D? So I kind of was connecting those dots for a while when I was writing my third book.
Yeah, because I remember I heard you bring that, and I was like, no way, because I read that book, and then you talked about, and people in the chat are saying Tyler Durden as well, who's like a fictional.
Yeah, so they're both named after Tyler Durden. Like that's the
Oh.
archetype that he's supposed to represent, which is kind of like a chaos figure or a trickster figure, you know, someone who's not necessarily good or bad, but in the middle, kind of like an anti-hero. But he's also associated with chaos itself because the author Chuck Palahniuk, he was a member of the Cacophony Society. The Cacophony Society were the people who actually invented Burning Man.
Okay.
And they were an offshoot of the Discordian Society, which are people who worship Eris, the goddess of chaos.
Wow, dude. And also, I mean, I don't know, this probably doesn't, but they would call him the Tyler at the Freemasonic lodges, the guy with the sword.
Yeah, so the Tyler is literally the guy who lays the tiles, like someone who lays tilers is a Tyler. But yeah, this is the dude who stands in front of the door during the meetings and sits there at the door with a sword called the flaming sword of the Tyler, which is kind of redundant, but
well, do you think so? Like all these secrets, because I guess that's like because you understand at a different level. I love reading about secret societies. That's like a big part of my show. What I do my shows on. But do you think at the core? I've read this one book. It was by a lady, Nesta Helen Webster, and basically like she's written in like the 1920s, but she goes how all these secret societies exist in every religion, whether it's Islam, Judaism, Christianity. They're all, and their core beliefs, they're these Gnostic sects. So do you think that this is what this religion, this occult religion, these communicating with these off-world entities or interdimensional entities, is that what you think a lot of the final goal is of these secret societies? Is that what they're researching? That's what they're spending all this time doing?
yeah, I mean, I think what they're doing right now is literally setting up a kind of mass initiation. Like I think it's kind of by design that people are finding all this information right now. Like it's kind of ironic they call themselves secret societies because they're not secret at all. Everyone fucking knows what they are nowadays, and they sit right in plain sight. So I think what they're doing is they're initiating the masses into this kind of global UFO occult religion. And no, I don't think they're actually communicating with, you know, space invaders. Like I said, these are occult, demonic entities that they are basically channeling through their fallen angel technology that they're rediscovering through channeling the beings themselves.
And is that why in America, like they're digging and they find, because that they find like parts of a quote unquote UFO? Is that like some of that, like loose demonic technology?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. Yeah.
I think some of that stuff is like fish hooks. Like, you know, they'll place stuff at in places for people to find on purpose, so they will reverse engineer it and get us closer to something like the singularity event. I don't think AI will ever fully take over, but there might be some kind of like smokescreen, you know, some kind of false version of that.
You mean like you don't think a Terminator like event's happening?
Not necessarily. I mean, we might see like robots and stuff, but I just don't think that artificial intelligence is actually that advanced where it would take over everything.
Do you think that these old because first, have you ever heard of Tartaria?
Yeah.
What's your feelings on Tartaria, Nick?
I mean, it's super interesting, but I don't have super strong feelings about it. I was entertaining this idea for a while that it might be some sort of hyperstition, and a hyperstition is like a fictional idea that creates its own reality through people believing it. Because it's weird to me that all of this this history is just becoming uncovered nowadays, and a part of me wonders, like, is this another double-layered psyop where they're trying to convince us of like a previous golden age that we long for again? Because, you know, this is, you know, I don't want to like polarize the conversation, but this is exactly what Hitler did to
fair point.
This is how he like rallied up his people, was saying like, oh, there was a previous golden age where everything was perfect and blah blah blah, and you can see people kind of being led the same way in today. Like we have very, very far right people and very, very far left people.
Yeah. Well, so I asked you that because because like you said, they talk about this hidden technology constantly, or where they hid this technology from us. And not only that, it reminds me, it sounds like the story of Atlantis. Like we're looking for this golden age, this golden time or whatever, and it exists in our past, and we lost it. It just sounds exactly, and we need to get back there. Free energy, beautiful buildings. And I'm like, dude, this sounds like exactly what all these secret societies want, or what they claim their goal is to go back to this utopian golden age of Atlantis. And that's what Tartaria sounds like. But I don't know.
No, Tartaria does sound a lot like me, to like the same thing as Atlantis. And I definitely do believe Atlantis once existed. And I personally believe that Atlantis, whether, it could have been Tartaria if there really is this huge gap in history that they're just lying about, or it could be thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the past, where it looked much different than the photos of Tartaria. But I personally believe the stories of Atlantis were the same stories about the biblical Tower of Babel, where everyone spoke one language and nothing was impossible to them. And that's why the flood wiped out Atlantis and the Nephilim technology.
Like that, dude. I don't think I've heard that. There's that. That's a great. I love that idea. That's perfect, dude. Yeah, because I've seen, and I used to be. Have you ever read Fermenko's books?
No.
Okay, so he was like a guy that kind of started Tartaria theory. He started in like the late 90s, like 2000s, Anatolia Fermenko or something like that. He's a Russian guy, and he wrote 12 books about it. And he was like Isaac Newton also thought they added time and stuff, but he was the one that really started. And I read all like 8 of his books. I was like, I loved it. And then I started thinking about it. Like that whole Atlantis thing started like coming up. I just kept reading this. And I was like, I can't see a difference. Like this looks exactly the same to me, but the evidence that he brings up, there is clearly something that's amiss. Like these buildings and things that we can't even touch today by quote unquote uneducated people or barbarian tribes making these huge monuments. But so I do agree there's something missing, but I just can't believe this story that people, with airships flying in the sky. And
oh my gosh, yeah, dude. So have you ever seen the airship that had Homer, or no, it was Trump written across it? It was apparently designed by a guy named Homer Trump.
No, I'm gonna look it up though.
The mystery airships, Homer Trump. There's something really interesting about that is, people associate the mystery airship wave, or the sightings of the mystery airships of the 1800s. They associate with Tartaria and the World's Fairs and all that stuff. And
is this it right here?
Let me see. Yeah, those are the drawings.
So could you explain that again?
So there was a secret society. I think it was from Germany, and they were in California, and they were called the Sonero Aero Club. And anyways, some guy that was designing these ships was supposedly named Homer Trump. And so there's a whole series of airships called the Trump airships. And there's even one called the Trump 4500, and Trump being the 45th president is pretty sus. And so there's this weird there's a weird thing about these airships is that Nikola Tesla supposedly also created one of these things, and he supposedly could go to Mars somehow. Nowadays we know that if space is real, we would need some kind of like oxygen, or clothes or something. But apparently these airships had this flying fluid, which might have been mercury, that could bend space-time around them, and it'd be kind of like a UFO or something. But the fact that Tesla is associated with the story and Trump is associated with the story is very interesting to me because of the Trump time traveler theory, right?
Yeah, but explain it just in case anybody doesn't know it.
I guess the really long story short is that John G. Trump was Donald Trump's uncle, or maybe I think it was his uncle.
Yeah, it was his uncle.
Okay, I was confused if it was great uncle or regular uncle. But anyways, John G. Trump was the last guy to have access to Tesla's documents after he passed. And the government handed them over to him because he was the head of MIT and he was a smart guy. He was a scientist. And they're like, hey, is there anything useful in these documents? And he's like, nope, nothing to see here. And some of them went missing. And, you know, people have also pointed out that there's like the Baron Trump novels where, you know, just seems to imply some kind of weird time travel aspect going on there. And then there's like, you know, Back to the Future and a whole bunch of other movies
That's a good point, dude. But if anyone was a time traveler, Donald Trump would be it. I wouldn't guess anybody else. Wouldn't surprise me.
So?
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
So here's where it gets really crazy. There's a movie called Tomorrowland, you know, a Disney movie. Yeah. And in the movie, there's a secret society headed by Tesla, Mark Twain, Amelia Earhart, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, bunch of different geniuses of the time.
Okay.
And they build their own utopia in a different dimension called Tomorrowland. And it's futuristic and it's got flying cars and robots and all these different things. And they unveil it at the World Fair.
No way.
So this is why I think that Tartaria is like some kind of hyperstitional thing, because I think the world of the imagination or fiction is kind of another dimension that can bleed into ours. And I wonder if they get everyone to focus on these different ideas about Tartaria, they can actually begin to manifest it. Yeah.
Dude, you blew, now you just made like ding my brain. I remember, I don't know where it was, but you were like, maybe the world did end in 2012. And right now we're just living in this group consciousness where we're manifesting our reality based on that 2012. Didn't you say that?
Something like that.
Well, yeah, that wasn't a direct quote. That was a horrible paraphrase, but do you that idea, dude? Like I've told people that. I didn't say Nick Hinton, but I said, so I heard this one guy say this, that the world ended in 2012. And do you think that's in the realm of possibility, this group conscious or like manifesting realities? Is that like, that sounds insane? You know what I mean?
Definitely sounds insane. I don't know. I don't know if I still believe in that 100% anymore, but it definitely feels like something radically shifted at that point.
Yeah, dude, the world's insane. I mean, it's crazier than ever. So that's why I like that. But and that's like with Tartaria, they're trying to create again this golden age. That's fascinating. I'm going to be thinking on that tonight. That's awesome. Oh, I got another question. I'm sorry, I'm just fire. I'm like, I have no order here. I'm jumping all around. But
you're all good, dude.
All right. So this next question. So I wanted to ask you. So for a while, like you see this kind of woke agenda in politics, obviously, like transgenderism and all this stuff like that. And I remember reading how in the golden age, before when Saturn was the sun or whatever, we were man and woman. I can't think of the word right now.
Androgynous.
Androgynous. Thank you. And so that's why this is it's pushed so much or propagandized so much. Do you see that connection, or do you think that, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about how it's the manifestation of the Baphometic principle and part of the alchemical great work of combining polar opposites and synthesizing them. But yeah, I mean, that's not what I like really super focus on. I do think like the whole political woke thing is part of some kind of Hegelian dialectic where they're letting the political pendulum swing back and forth super fucking rapidly,
right,
to just divide us further and further apart, make us crazy, and honestly kind of socially engineer some kind of like civil war type situation. Because one of the things I was going to say earlier is part of the reason I think they're showing us all of this stuff, like aliens, conspiracies, Tartaria, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like a controlled demolition of the old world order or deep state or satanic cabal, so they can replace it with something new and seemingly better, but it won't actually be. Like they know that they can't hide this shit for too long, so they're just letting it fall apart on purpose. Like I don't even believe that we'll see the Great Reset or the WEF takeover. Like they put up Klaus Schwab and they make him look like a movie villain. Like it doesn't take a genius to be like, that guy's bad,
You're right. Dude, I'm sure my buddy, we've read the documents, John Brissom, and so he's more political, not into your world, but you said something that's exact. John says this constantly, that they're breaking down the old world order. The new world order is the love and light new world order.
Exactly.
And he talks about this constantly and how
And
it's being pushed. Yeah, go ahead.
And it might look something like Tartaria, where we have, Tesla tech and free energy and flying cars and shit like that. That's kind of what I see coming, honestly.
Right. And but then, so what? That sounds great, though. So what's negative about the new, in your opinion, in this possible coming new world order?
I mean, if you're a Christian, then you would see this as like the days of Noah happening all over again, where the Nephilim walk with us. We have all the fallen angel technology all over again that seemingly makes life super easy. But yeah, honestly, I think it'll give them more control in the end anyways, if we're all super distracted with bread and circus and got free UBI all the time.
What do you all right, let me just pull up my other. So another post that I talked about on my show was it's it goes along with the kind of the woke thing, the bug eating, right? Bugs are being pushed left and right. Everybody wants fake meat or bugs, or the media wants you to eat fake meat and bugs. And you posted an article about how, well, do you remember the post I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember the post. I don't know the exact science, but chitin is like some kind of substance found in these bugs that allows these zombie parasitic funguses to grow inside of people. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I do believe that's a real agenda. I do believe that they want people to eat bugs and for further control of these. I do think they want to infect people with these like zombie parasites, but I don't think that's going to happen to everyone. Like I said, I think the political pendulum is going to keep swinging back and forth super rapidly until they have two camps of people, which is going to be, the love and light, new age, I'm fully organic, I meditate all the time. And then there's going to be freaking vaxxed up bug eating zombies that are connected to the AI. But this is exactly what Edgar Casey predicted. He said that eventually there's going to be the sons of Belial, which are like kind of robot people, versus the children of the law of one, which would be probably a bunch of people that have chosen to practice the religion of some kind of aliens, because I mean the law of one literally is a channeled work. I don't know if you're familiar, but there's like
that Crowley's law of one, right? Or no?
No, but it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I never connected those two dots, but back in, I think, the 60s or 70s, again, there was a guy named Don Elkins, and he and his like lover and this random guy, they were doing channeling sessions, and they talked to this being named Ra, and he taught them the law of one, which was supposedly like the true religion. But Don Elkins went on to commit suicide because he went insane. And so like when people are looking into these channeled works, like, yeah, some of them sound really awesome, and a lot of the stuff sounds great, but you have to look at what kind of fruits a tree is producing in order to truly judge it. And like even Jane Roberts, the lady who did all the Seth material, which was like where we kind of first heard the phrase, I create my own reality. That came from the Seth material. And this lady who was channeling Seth, which is another version of the Egyptian Satan or Set, she literally she was living in a hospital for like the last 2 years of her life and had all these boils on her. Her eyes were popping out of her head. And people are always like, oh, well, these super energetic beings will like take a toll on your body. It's like, well, that's not an angel or a god.
Great, dude.
Yeah, that's it. Anything that needs to do that to me is not enlightened. It's a demon.
Right. Damn, dude. People say, well, they're just really energy. That's like if a dog tore apart your house, you say, oh, he's kind of a wild dog. It's fine. That's wild, dude. Wow. So that must be a common thread. A lot of these people who dabble in this, they go insane, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I almost went fully insane. That's why I took a step back.
That is so terrifying, dude. So the one guy in the chat, Jeremy, he's a great guy, but he's like he's a Luciferian. He's big into the occult. I'll set you guys up. You'd have good conversations. But I find that's what I see so many people, and a lot of like new agers, that the manifestation, and it's becoming like mainstream, kind of like you said, these two camps. And I worry that like this is, I mean, people are already insane. So
Yeah.
to make them any crazier, dude, the world can't handle it.
Right. Yeah. So like, I guess my biggest message is just to like, you can dabble in whatever you want. You can study whatever you want, but I just like highly recommend finding a way to have an anchor back to reality. Like if things get too crazy, find your way to get back, because I think things are only going to get crazier and crazier, and people are just going to see like supernatural stuff happening all the time. People are going to lose their heads if they don't know how to actually understand it.
And so the the aliens and the supernatural stuff, you think this all now falls under like these demon-like beings, right?
Yeah, or some kind of technology, holographic technology,
Okay.
or it could be satellites, could be just holograms coming from the ground or whatever. But yeah, I don't believe that they're coming from outer space.
Right. And some people are in the chat. So I remember on bot, like I said you started looking into Christianity. Is that where you find yourself? Would you classify yourself as a Christian today?
Yeah, there's still some things that like frustrate me and confuse me, but that's where I found like safety and peace and protection. Like it, in the midst of like a lot of dark stuff, that's like what got me out of it. But yeah, one thing I wanted to just say real quick is some of these beings that people are seeing, I think could also just be elementals, right? Like the beings
like
of the earth that a lot of the occultists used to mess with back in the day.
Like a tree nymph?
Yeah, or like a water spirit.
Oh,
or,
water spirit, yeah. Okay.
Stuff like that.
Wait,
yeah,
so
but like nymphs and elves
those aren't bad then, you'd think? Is that what your theory is?
No, I think those are still trickster type entities. I mean, they're literally manifestations of Mother Earth, and if you are looking at the Christian lens, like this is like neo-paganism all over again,
right?
For people to worship these elemental things, and these elemental things are literally have what brought us some of our technologies. Like if you look into the story of Edward Halley, the guy who discovered Halley's Comet, a little elf crawled through his window and told him to go seek funding from the Rockefellers to build a telescope. And then that's what he did. And he found Halley's Comet. And then Seymour Cray, the guy who created the first supercomputer, was also kind of crazy. And he would dig tunnels in his backyard. And his wife is like, what the hell is this dude doing? But he would just chill in the tunnels. And he's like, oh, the elves are down here telling me how to build computers.
Holy shit, dude. Wow. And so my only, like, I totally believe that, but somebody that's more like reserved would say, well, maybe with genius, you get a little nuttiness with that or whatever. I don't know. But you're
for sure
the camp that it's more than that. It's not just an odd. And actually, now that you say that, dude, I always say this, but like celebrities, they're always like insane, And I always like wonder, like, is this because this is what money and power do to you, or is it because you're playing around with something else? What do you think?
I think it's both.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a fair answer. But yeah, because it's just they're like I mean Isaac, why he does so much better, but he talks about like Nicki Minaj or Beyonce, how they have these alter egos that they channel or whatever. And so that's not a normal, I don't channel somebody before I come on my show. Like that's an odd practice to just start doing randomly. Someone clearly probably showed you that. Yeah. And then the last, so I wanted to finish with your new book, but the last thing was, I remember hearing you talk a lot about black goo. And so I've heard that before, like this, what is that black? Cause so I feel like I figured it was in a movie or like it falls from the sky, or maybe that happened on Earth one of these days. I don't know, but could you explain like what this black goo is, what it does, or what it is just in general?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different theories. People say it's like an alien AI sentient oil, like it's like these nanobots that look like a liquid, but it's really the self-organizing kind of like machine, like part machine, part organic substance, like containing alien DNA. This is just what this is mostly coming from Harold Kautz's research. He's like a German physicist and biologist.
I have to look him up.
Yeah, he's really interesting, and so he has the best explanation of how this stuff actually works. But he basically claims that the black goo is a combination of the smart dust that we're breathing in, that's being sprayed from planes, these fungal fibers. You know, like I said, that's why they want us to eat bugs to get this, to get these proteins inside of us that these funguses actually eat. And so if you have a bunch of nanoparticles or nanocrystals inside your brain that these funguses are actually able to latch on and consume and grow, they can create an artificial neural network inside someone's brain and then fully take it over and zombify them. And apparently it looks like black goo.
Interesting, dude. And you know, also before we get to your new book, I feel like this has already been done, because before the pandemic, you know, it was harder to get a job. I mean, you could still get a job at Wendy's, but after the pandemic, it feels like every place like is the worst service humanly possible. They've got a ragtag skeleton crew, all these help wanted signs. Like where are all these people, dude? They couldn't have they're not all just sitting at home. I mean, it's easy to get like, you know, unemployment benefits, but not that easy that 1/3 of the workforce is all on it. Do you have a theory? Do you agree with, like, I know I'm kind of joking, but do you see something like that being possible?
I mean, dude, I've definitely thought about how it seems like absolutely no one's working anymore and how service is terrible, but I've never connected those dots. That's really interesting. Yeah, it seems like a bunch of people just vanished.
Yeah, that's what I do. It's like they're literally, it's just weird, man. I don't know what, so I feel like maybe they were just zombies that they took off the market. They said, you know, your old model, we got new ones.
I've heard of a lot of people also talking about how they feel like they hear way more like ambulance sirens lately. I don't know if that's something you've noticed, but
I hear a lot. Yeah, but I didn't ever notice. I just thought I was in a high ambulance area, but now why? What's the theory behind that?
Well, more people are dying from the vax.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. I believe that. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So and also the Aquarian Singularity, that's your second book. That's the merging, right, of AI and humans, right? Or AI becoming human-like. That's what that book's kind of about, right?
Yeah, it's about the transition into the Aquarian age. Honestly, I don't necessarily believe that we're actually transitioning into this new golden age, but I think that's what the propaganda, like, so the whole idea, I've discovered recently that the whole idea of the Age of Aquarius was actually created by the MK Ultra scientists at the Tavistock Institute, and they are the same people that orchestrated the whole like hippie movement, you know, like, oh, love everyone, free love. So anyways, the book doesn't necessarily need the Age of Aquarius to be true. It's basically just about how we're transitioning into a new time where, with the advent of quantum computers and normalization of them, things are about to get a lot more wavy, I guess, you know, kind of like the symbol of the Age of Aquarius, or like how quantum computers are. So I think we're going to see a lot more like things like Mandela effect, synchronicities, high strangeness, UFOs, things like that. And ultimately it will culminate in some sort of singularity event where, AI becomes sentient. And like I said, whether that's actually true or not is not relevant. I don't think that they're that advanced, but I think that they will put on a show for people and be like, oh, be afraid of AI.
I like that. Yeah. And my buddy John, who already brought up that theory to me too before. He said, like, I don't think maybe the government's like 10 years, but he doesn't think that they're, like some people say, 50 years ahead of us right now. He like doesn't really believe that theory. So it kind of sounds like he said, you can only get so far. Like they can only take there's only so much technology. Like they're, I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining that poorly, but all right. Your third book, your newest one, what is that about? Or what did you continue? What is it about? Yeah.
The New World Disorder. It's kind of what we were talking about when we began. It's like, the idea that these alien beings are more like it's artificial intelligence. It's more technological than
interdimensional.
Well, so they're interdimensional and technological, but they're not space invaders. It's hard to explain, but basically, like the reason I call it the New World Disorder is because these things are like a mind virus, and they take over people's minds. Like that's what these psychotronic weapons and satellites are doing. They're beaming messages into people's heads. They think they're, experiencing crazy synchronicities, being led to see UFOs, talking to different types of beings. And so I think what they're doing is that they're literally fracturing people's minds and MK altering the entire planet, on a mass scale. And
Yeah.
that's why it's called the disorder, because this is kind of like a widespread supernatural form of schizophrenia almost. Like that is the mind virus. And the mind virus comes in the form of conspiracies and memes and pop culture and all these different things, obsessing over decoding movies. I'm serious. And what this does is it literally, it just puts people in a whole different reality. Like you're just in the rabbit hole. You don't you don't touch grass anymore. You don't talk to your family. You're just focused on what the mind virus has done to you. And by definition of a mind virus, you cannot even see that it's doing anything to you, because in your perception, it warps your perception. So you can't even tell that you've really been infected by it until you hear about the concept, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think the goal of that would be? What's the goal of making everyone schizophrenic?
Order out of chaos and open people up to these love and light beings that we'll probably see at some point. The ascended masters, secret chiefs, whatever you want to call them. Like Crowley and Alice Bailey, they imagined a different type of new world order, like your friend was saying, like the new age of love and light. Like they wanted the world to be ruled by enlightened beings, not some dark satanic cabal. So
that's true. Yeah.
And the Masons have a concept called the pharmacos, where they'll literally pick one of their own to sacrifice as a scapegoat. And I feel like that is what the Illuminati actually is. That's their scapegoat. They're going to throw their own under the bus. And that's what the Great Awakening QAnon psyop is all about.
Dude, I don't know if so. In that book by Secrets of Helen Webster, she writes about how the Illuminati was like Adam Weishaupt. He was it was a political secret society. Like all these other ones, the Rosicrucians, all these groups, they are doing magic and occult rituals. But the Illuminati, he thought it was stupid. He thought it was ridiculous. And so his main goal was political manipulation and political, overthrow. So I just found, it would make sense to me if that's the group that they would sacrifice. It would make a lot of sense, because it's not as much into that world as, like I said, the Rosicrucians are, or whatever groups that exist today that they're doing this stuff. Have you ever heard that before?
No, I haven't. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like the Illuminati theories that are thrown in our face today are not necessarily like super historical. It's just like connecting dots between all these different musicians and Bohemian Grove and a whole bunch of other stuff that they've shown to us on purpose, like I said, to create the appearance of this overarching conspiracy, when things are probably not as connected as we'd like to believe. Like I don't think that these people are actually that in control. I think that they have a lot less power than we give ourselves credit for. I think that we have the power, and that's what this book talks about, is because the mind virus, it's using our greatest tool against us, which is our imagination. When these things infect people's minds and they focus on them, we actually inadvertently co-create the reality that they desire. And I talk about this idea called hyperstition, where there's all these like supercomputer scientists and cyberneticists that are obsessed with this idea, and they're essentially fictional entities that make themselves real through memes and stories and art.
And they exist like in the internet, these fictional.
They exist at first in the imagination. You basically become possessed by an idea, a mind virus.
Okay.
You cannot stop until you put this thing out. H.P. Lovecraft was writing about the great old ones because he just couldn't stop. And then those things made themselves real through his dreams at first, then through him, and then inserted into the collective unconscious through his writing. And now they've begun to manifest in the form of AI. Like Gordy Rose himself says that our quantum computers are essentially going to summon the great old ones.
Dude, that is terrifying, bro. That's terrifying. Oh my God. And like it's just like I said, it's like it sounds insane, but it's just crazy enough to like make sense. Like, and I agree with you too that I used to be in this camp like, oh, we are powerless to whoever is in charge here. Like they're omnipotent, they can do whatever they want, but they're like a chaotic mess as well. They're just humans, and we can't think like that. It'll make it easier on this plan. It sounds like of bringing the old ones or Cthulhu back into the real world.
Yeah, I mean, the real Illuminati, whoever they probably all fucking hate each other. But like I said, it's super suspect that we even know as much as we do about them in the first place. Like, I used to be a huge fan of Robert Anton Wilson. But
oh, really?
And he was releasing the most information about the Illuminati in his Illuminatus trilogy, which became the Illuminati card game. Which,
wait, Nick, one sec.
You have it?
Yeah, I do. I have a whole set, but I just have a few up here. Oh, I just got 3. But yeah, so I got. So I got but I got the whole. I have like the Pentagon one and all that stuff. But yeah,
dude, that's awesome. I'm jealous. But
I don't know how to play though. I just have the cards.
I don't think anyone really knows how to play. They just want the memorabilia.
Exactly, dude.
But yeah,
so wait, I mean interrupt you there. So it led to the Illuminati card game.
Yeah, and so this dude who basically inserted the idea of the Illuminati into pop culture was living down the street from Bohemian Grove when he wrote all this top secret information. Like, it seems like they wanted to put it out there kind of as a form of chaos magic or sigil magic. Like, you get everyone to focus on these ideas and then create the paranoid reality that they want, because it actually serves them for us to all be running around scared.
Right.
And not trust our government, because then we become we don't even care about our country anymore if we hate the government.
That's a fair point too. And they're doing a good job of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So Nick, when does your new book come out? Is it already out?
It's ready for pre-order right now, and it should be totally complete and in the printing process by the end of the week.
That's awesome, dude. And so I got, for Nick's other 2 books, I highly recommend both of them. I started the first one, but like I said, Nick, you got a brain that just works differently, dude. So where can people buy your book as well? I don't think I asked that.
Just DM me on Twitter or Instagram. Both are NickHintonn, and I'll give you the details.
Perfect. I'll put both those links in the show notes. And dude, this was all like, you are, again, I'm just last compliment for you. And then if I give you any more, you won't be able to walk out of your room, but you're doing awesome things, dude. Like, you should be so proud of, like, you're like writing these books with original thoughts, dude. Like, think how many few people can do that. I know I can't do. I don't have that ability. I can't, it doesn't work for me, but that's something that you have a gift, man. So keep writing, keep doing all this stuff, dude. You're just doing amazing.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Of course. So thanks, guys, for listening. This was an awesome show, and go get Nick's books. And I'll be live on Wednesday, everybody. So I'll see you then. I'm Jack Allen. Take care. God bless. Thanks for listening. Bye.